What if the part of you that scares you most is the key to everything you're missing? You've spent your whole life avoiding it, those flickers of anger, envy, fear, or sadness that make you uncomfortable. The moments when someone rubs you the wrong way for reasons you can't quite explain. But what if I told you those feelings aren't random? What if they're not signs of weakness, but clues? Clues to the part of you that holds the answers you've been chasing. They aren't failures, they're messengers. Welcome to the concept of the shadow self, not a mystical idea, but a real psychological insight that can change how you see everything. At its heart, the shadow is simple. It's the part of you that you've learned to hide. Think of it like a closet in your mind where you've stuffed all the things you were told not to show. Your anger, your desire, your insecurities, and surprisingly, even your creativity, boldness, or strength. Over time, this closet fills up. You forget what's in it. But those hidden parts don't disappear. They show up in your life anyway, just not in the ways you expect. The shadow isn't just made of negative traits. Many people hide their joy, confidence, or ambition out of fear they'll be rejected for shining too brightly. Ever overreact to something small? Find yourself unfairly judging someone else? That's your shadow poking through. It's like trying to seal off part of a garden and wondering why the plants keep growing through the cracks. The traits you criticize in others often reflect a disowned part of yourself. This phenomenon, called projection, is a powerful compass pointing back to your own inner landscape. Here's the twist. The shadow doesn't exist to sabotage you. It exists to complete you. Swiss psychologist Carl Jung believed that the more we ignore our shadow, the more power it has over us. But when we start to notice it, really pay attention, it becomes a source of strength. This is called shadow work. And it's not complicated. It starts with asking one honest question. Why did that bother me so much? When you're triggered, you're being given a map. Instead of pushing the feeling away, tracing it backward often leads to an early wound or belief that's ready to be rewritten. By being curious about your reactions, especially the ones that feel out of proportion, you begin to see the real you, not just the edited version you show the world. It's like realizing that the monster under your bed is actually a part of you that just wants to be heard. Listening to the shadow doesn't mean agreeing with it, but acknowledging it can disarm its power and offer surprising wisdom. And here's where things get exciting. Because that same hidden space where you stuffed your insecurities, that's also where your golden shadow lives. The confidence, compassion, or creativity you may have buried because someone once said it was too much. Reclaiming those traits is like opening a locked treasure chest inside yourself. The golden shadow is proof that the parts of you you've been afraid to claim are often your greatest gifts, waiting for permission to lead. This isn't about fixing who you are. It's about finally seeing all of who you are. Shadow work is challenging, but in the best way. It leads to clearer relationships, deeper self-respect, and a powerful kind of peace that comes not from avoiding darkness, but from learning how to live with it. So next time you're triggered, frustrated, or judgmental, ask, what part of me might be calling out from the dark? That simple question could be the beginning of something life-changing. Integration, not perfection, is the goal. Wholeness comes from honoring both the light and the shadow within you. Shadow work isn't a one-time realization. It's a lifelong relationship. Like any relationship, it deepens over time. The more you return to it with honesty and compassion, the more it reveals. Your shadow will evolve as you grow. What you buried at 10 may be different from what you hide at 30 or 50. Each layer has its own wisdom. Some days, shadow work looks like journaling through a difficult emotion. Other days, it's catching yourself in the act, mid-judgment, mid-reaction, and choosing to pause instead of react. It's subtle but powerful. These are the moments that shape who you're becoming. Awareness interrupts autopilot. Every time you bring consciousness to an old pattern, you weaken its grip and strengthen your freedom. The beauty of this process is that it's not about perfection. You will still get triggered. You will still judge, but you'll catch it faster. You'll recover with more grace. And slowly, life will feel less like something to control and more like something to trust. Growth isn't linear. It spirals. You may revisit the same wound from new angles. That's not failure. It's deepening. Even relationships begin to shift. As you understand your own shadows, you develop empathy for others navigating theirs. You stop needing to fix people and start witnessing them instead. That's when true connection happens. Soul to soul, not mask to mask. The shadow teaches compassion, not just for yourself, but for the unhealed parts of others. When you stop rejecting your own humanity, you stop demanding perfection from everyone else. And maybe the most surprising gift? Joy. The more you embrace your shadow, the more energy is freed up. What was once shame becomes humor. What was fear becomes clarity. The parts of you that used to feel like burdens start to feel like keys. Emotional integration isn't heavy, it's liberating. The shadow isn't just where your pain lives, it's also where your power wakes up. Shadow work sounds deep, and it is. But you don't need years of therapy or a library of books to start. You just need honesty, consistency, and a little courage. The process starts small and builds over time. Start with reflection. Set aside 10 minutes. No pressure, no agenda. Just ask yourself, what triggered me today? When did I feel shame, jealousy, or irritation? Who got under my skin, and why might that feel familiar? Write without editing. Let your thoughts spill out raw. The goal isn't to solve anything. It's to observe. The part of you that's defensive is often guarding a younger version of you who felt unsafe being seen. Let that version speak. Notice patterns. Certain emotions will repeat. Certain types of people will keep showing up. These aren't coincidences, they're invitations. Every pattern is a message waiting to be decoded. Life will keep bringing you the same lessons in different costumes until you learn to see the teacher hiding inside the trigger. Then, choose curiosity over judgment. Shadow work is not about blaming yourself for your reactions. It's about understanding them. Ask questions like, what belief might be hiding underneath this feeling? When did I first learn that it wasn't okay to feel this? Whose voice do I hear when I shame myself? Many of your harshest inner criticisms aren't yours. They're internalized voices from childhood, culture, or past wounds that you've mistaken as truth. Next, welcome what you find. This is the hardest part. Letting the parts of yourself you've labeled bad be seen with compassion. Imagine offering them a seat at the table, not to take over, but to be heard. Integration means no part of you gets exiled. The goal is not control, but cooperation between your many inner parts. Finally, practice presence. You won't fix your shadow, but you can form a relationship with it. That relationship is the foundation of authenticity, resilience, and emotional intelligence. The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the part of you that remembers everything you've survived and wants to make you whole again. Shadow work doesn't end once you've had a few breakthroughs. It's a living practice, something you carry with you into relationships, work, creativity, and even your inner dialogue. Integration isn't a final destination. It's how you walk. Begin by shifting how you define progress. Instead of asking, am I healed yet? Ask, am I being more honest with myself today than I was yesterday? Healing isn't about being untriggered. It's about being less owned by your triggers and more able to choose your response. In conversations, notice when you feel the urge to withdraw, over-explain, or defend. Instead of reacting, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, what part of me feels exposed right now? Every trigger is an invitation to reclaim a lost part of yourself. If you're willing to stay present with discomfort, it can become a doorway to self-understanding. At work or in creative pursuits, watch for the voice that says, who do you think you are? That's often the shadow of old rejection or fear of visibility. Instead of pushing it away, name it. The more you accept your inner critic as a scared protector, not a truth teller, the more power you take back from it. With loved ones, practice compassion rooted in awareness. When someone acts out, consider, is this their shadow speaking? That doesn't mean tolerating harm, but it does mean responding with boundaries and humanity. Recognizing the shadow in others doesn't excuse their behavior. It helps you stop personalizing it and respond with grounded clarity instead of reactivity. Make time for check-ins with yourself. Even 5 minutes in the evening to ask, where was I not fully myself today? Or what part of me was I afraid to let be seen? Can shift your entire week. Integration is less about fixing what's wrong and more about welcoming what's been hidden. Wholeness isn't perfection, it's presence. Your shadow is not a flaw in your design. It's a sacred part of your human story. And the more you learn to live with it instead of against it, the more alive, creative, and grounded you become. You don't need to become someone else to grow. You need to become more yourself, all of yourself. Shadow work sounds mysterious, maybe even a little dark. That's why so many people hesitate to begin. But much of the fear comes from misunderstanding what the shadow really is. Let's clear that up. The shadow holds both your wounds and your brilliance. Many people fear the shadow because they think it will reveal something ugly. But often, the scariest thing hiding in the shadow is your power, your joy, or your permission to be big. The golden shadow includes all the parts of you you've dimmed. your boldness, beauty, assertiveness, sensuality, or creativity, because somewhere along the line you were told they were too much. Shadow work is about meeting your feelings, not getting lost in them. You don't have to revisit every painful memory to heal. Simply noticing when you're reactive, judgmental, or shut down is a powerful place to start. Integration begins with awareness, not excavation. Shadow work can be emotionally intense, but it's not about overwhelm. It's about meeting yourself with curiosity instead of fear. You're not broken, you're complex. The shadow isn't asking to be solved, it's asking to be seen, heard, and welcomed. The more you try to fix yourself, the more you reinforce the belief that something is wrong with you. Healing happens when you hold space for contradiction, the part of you that's scared and the part of you that's strong, the part that wants to hide and the part that wants to be seen. The more whole you become, the more you can show up for others. Unconscious pain often spills into relationships as blame, control, or withdrawal. Shadow work helps you own your stuff, so you stop unconsciously projecting it onto others. Wholeness isn't about self-absorption, it's about responsibility. When you integrate your shadow, you bring more empathy, clarity, and stability to the people around you. Shadow work is personal, but it doesn't have to be isolated. Whether it's therapy, a trusted friend, a support group, or journaling community, sharing your process can be healing in itself. Vulnerability invites connection, and connection makes the shadow less scary. The shadow isn't a dark curse, it's a mirror. And when you're willing to look, you start seeing the truth, not just of what hurts, but of what's possible. The shadow doesn't dim your light, it defines it. Without contrast, light has no meaning. The parts you've hidden aren't your weakness, they're your edge, your fuel, your becoming. You've met the shadow, not as a monster, but as a mirror. Not as something to fight, but as something to understand. And now you stand at a turning point, not one moment, but a quiet invitation that will repeat again and again. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you hold space for your emotions without shame, every time you ask, what part of me needs to be heard right now? You are doing the work. Growth doesn't always look like transformation. Sometimes it looks like staying present for one more breath instead of running from yourself. Shadow work isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before you were told which parts of you were acceptable. It's peeling back the layers, reclaiming what's been buried, welcoming yourself home. The shadow is where your forgotten self waits, not your worst self, but your wholeness. Not just the pain, but the potential. There will be days when it's messy, when old habits come roaring back, when you fall into stories you thought you'd outgrown. That's not failure. That's being human. Integration doesn't mean never being triggered. It means you recognize the moment as it's happening and respond with more self-awareness than before. Keep going. Stay curious. Stay kind. To yourself, especially. You will never be too much for the parts of you that have waited your whole life to be seen. Because in the end, the shadow doesn't mean darkness. It means depth. It means dimension. It means finally living as all of you, not just the parts the world approves of. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your guide to the life you were meant to live, authentic, full spectrum, and free. So go ahead. Step into your becoming. The rest of you is waiting.